State of the garden, March 8th, 2022. Front yard. The ribus is doing very well in its pot. I am continually amused by the fact that it doesn't like shade quite that much, apparently. So it's supposed to be growing evenly. It only grows on half of it, but it's still doing really awesome. I love that ribus. That is a pink flowering currant ribus. And I only have currants and not gooseberries because I don't like their thorns. But as far as pink flowering currants go, this is a lovely ribus. The Douglas irises make up for the section that's in complete shade. I need to plant a few other things there just to go ahead and do it. This year, however, I was going to replant and redo a whole bunch of things in the front yard. And my plans got kind of overtaken when I had to replace the sewer main. The sewer main, time, effort, cost. I have no money to do anything else with the sewer main. But the sewer main took out a few plants, but they managed to save the manzanita. Oh, I'm so glad they saved the manzanita. They actually had to dig halfway under the manzanita just to go ahead and get the curving of the drain goes from the house straight on down, but then the city outlet is over there. They also had to redo the city outlet area. If you look back at previous ones, the city main used to be up on the other side of the manzanita. It's now much closer to the sidewalk, so that is a difference. An expensive difference, but it worked out okay. They saved the manzanita tree, so I'm happy. But changes to the yard will have to wait a little bit longer. The rosemary is in full bloom, obviously. The buckwheat is in full bloom later in the year, as not so much in full bloom right now, but it's a nice counterpoint to the rosemary. They actually do really, really nicely. And interestingly, honeybees love the rosemary there, and the native bees much prefer the buckwheat and the manzanita. That was interesting to observe. It makes sense, but it just goes to pinpoint the emphasis of needing to plant native plants to serve our native pollinators. The rosy buckwheats are doing well, but they look god-awful in their natural cycles. They get a little bit too sunburnt there, even though they spread and do wonderfully, and I don't think they are the best sidewalk plant. I'm going to have to relocate the rosy buckwheats at some point, so they are not a predominant front row plant there. Bees. Happy bees. Sorry for anybody walking along the sidewalk who doesn't like bees. In that regards, that's a little bit, well, it works really well here, but yeah, I apologize to anybody who's allergic or afraid of bees. Trying to do it on the sidewalk there. Anyhow, back to sidewalk plants. So the buckwheat obviously does really well. The ceanothus do really well there as well. These guys were misidentified earlier when they were planted. They were supposed to be maritime ceanothus. I believe they are actually Julia Phelps ceanothus, but they're doing really well as far as ground cover ceanothus go. That's a very nice ceanothus there. That's the only maritime ceanothus there. At least I think that was. But the poor ceanothus there has got a little bit covered by my other wonderful. These are a variation of sagebrush called the madrone. Madrone. I always say these things out loud when I'm narrating. Montara. Yeah, you know, I really need to memorize that better. I need to talk to you guys more often so I can memorize it so I can tell other people. So the Montara variation of the sagebrush here is a little bit grayer and a little bit small bush, compact bush form than the large. That is a large sagebrush, a sort of a normal one that you'd find out in the wilderness. There's also a more compact version and a ground cover version. Most of these don't necessarily have names, but they are out there. I really enjoy my sagebrushes. My sagebrushes are wonderful. Look at that desert lavender. The desert lavender is wonderful. Oh man, I love that desert lavender. But as far as front of the house, ground cover and varieties, this Montara sagebrush is a wonderful. It's pretty much maintains its form all year. Doesn't have to be cut back ever during fire seasons like the sagebrush. I mean, have to. It's sort of cutting them back every year. The large green ones mimics the fire seasons and helps promote the growth overall. So, but these guys don't have to be cut back like that, and they maintain their shape really well, and I like them as a front of the house sort of sagebrushy variation there. So they do really well. The desert mallow has turned out really excellently. Oh my gosh, that desert mallow's done really well. As I was not actually expecting the desert mallow to grow out so large. We've planted another one because since the first one did so well. Normally the lilac verbena is also expansive and large bushy. It gets cut back every year. The desert mallow does not get cut back every year, and it sort of maintains its flowers for a really long time as well. We can see the bees are enjoying the desert mallow as well. So, happy bees. Honey bees, but I believe the natives like these as well. So, happy pollinators, happy native garden. So, man. So it's huge. It's blocking off sunlight to the plants behind it a little bit. You know what, that's fine. We plant our plants and then we see who chooses to actually live here. So the Hummingbird Sages absolutely chose to live here. And they are doing so well. Oh, look at those Hummingbird Sages. I love my Hummingbird Sages. Look at how they grew. These were only a few plants originally. They have just crept and crept and crept over that whole area. Oh man, so lovely. We're actually a little bit in the end of their flowering season, which is in time for everything else to start flowering. But yeah, the hummingbirds have been enjoying them. And I'm enjoying them. We're all enjoying them. So wonderful. I love my sagebrush. Oh, yes. Let's talk about my desert snapdragon. Island snapdragon. Oh, this is a gorgeous island snapdragon. Whoop. Beep, 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 beep. Okay. Come on, there we go. Rawr, 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 rawr. Okay, sorry. I have to do that whenever I come across a snapdragon. The island snapdragon is actually a California native island, as it says. It's not quite San Jose area, but you know, hey. I do love it right here. It's kind of overshadowed by the sagebrush here, and I do have to talk to the neighbors about their habitry. I failed to talk to them in time this year. So I probably will plant a brand new island snapdragon out in the front because it obviously, I mean, this is the front yard. I mean, literally the front over out there because it does well here and it needs a more flamboyant spot. Such gorgeous. Speaking of things I forgot to do, the spice bush is starting its blooming season. And I failed to trim it away from the path. Oops. Well, hopefully there's going to be more than enough leaves on it in the next month that everybody will know to give it a little bit of a wide berth as they are walking around it. But yes. There we go. So it is actually, I mean, this actually would be wonderful all year if it actually leafed all year round, but it doesn't. So I do need to keep the not native plants right behind it, just so I have some plants before my windows areas. All the monkey flowers died off within the last couple of years. Monkey flowers apparently only have a 3 to 5 year lifespan, and they have reached the end of their lifespan. So I need to replant monkey flowers if I want more monkey flowers. One monkey flower left. Oh, he's not very happy, monkey flower. Yeah. So monkey flowers have a lifespan. Go ahead and plan on replacing them periodically. This whole area also got dug up because of the sewer line. So I went ahead and dug up the huckleberries and the alum roots. I was mispronouncing these the other day. Hechuria. Hechura? You know what? Let me just call them coral bells or alum root. You see, that's the problem with Latin names. Eventually I'll get it, but first I need to hear it a bit more times. Anyhow, I dug them up and stuck them in pots for a few weeks while they were working on the first while they were working actually on the sewer main, and then waiting for putting back the drip system and just getting them out. So it took a few weeks before they got planted again. I am hopeful. They look pretty good. I mean, this guy's blooming even. Hopefully that's not a last gasp sort of bloom. Hopefully that's a survival bloom. They really seem to have survived their time in pots. I mean, you don't usually repot and replant plants too well, but they seem to survive. I'm really happy. And there were 3 of these guys. There's only 2 of them now, but I'm surprised they lived too. I was really not expecting them to live, particularly that one, which has the white all over it because it got hacked up pretty badly. That white means they were painting over it to say, "You are straight along the sewer line path." And I now have a clean out trap for the front, which I didn't before, which also cost a pretty bit. But look, it's even blooming. My goodness. Survival. So, don't give up on your plants if you ever have to have a sewer main replacement. I don't think the Douglas irises survived too well. It was a nice huge clump of a plant, and this is not the time of year to be dividing it. So we tried replanting them, but well, we'll see. We'll see. Luckily, we did not have to do the Sandhill Sage. The Sandhill Sage is a very delicate critter. We had 3 of them planted originally. This is the only one left. So I like my little fuzzy sage there, but I'm happy it survived. I will. Oh, and another thing, the bronze manzanitas were amazing survivors there. They got so trampled during all this. They got walked on. They got bark thrown all of them. They got dirt thrown on them. They got walked on. They got trash thrown on them. They got pipes thrown on them. And they have survived. Oh my gosh, I love my bronze manzanitas. I am really impressed with how durable these ground cover manzanitas are. Another plant that was smack in the middle of the row was this other younger serpentine manzanita. That is an identical variety of manzanita as the big fella. The big fella we didn't think would survive transplant at all, but I was like, this guy's young enough and small enough, so I tried potting him as well and replanting, but we didn't want to replant him exactly on the same path because, for one thing, root systems into the sewer lines. Try not to plant your big plants over sewer lines. It was not actually tree roots. It wasn't tree roots. The house is just 60 years old and the pipes were in really bad condition. And talking with the neighbors, everybody's been having their sewer lines replaced because it's that time. Oh my gosh. All right. And that's state of the garden, front yard.